Ladies and gentlemen, it's 9 p.m. on a Thursday night. In fact, wait a second. It's March 25th, and this is 2021. This is Crawlspace Live with Bill Thomas and Kristin Dilley. What is going on, you two?
Well, hey there. I can't hear myself. Can you hear me?
Oh,
Yes.
We can hear you. It's like the voice of God coming right into my ears.
First, I had the church bells tolling 9, and then the voice of God descends upon us.
My God.
Myself.
Kristin
Wow.
Dilley joining us
you
as well. How are you,
Yep.
Kristin?
I'm pretty tired. How are you?
No. Oh,
Pretty
you're
good.
sideways.
You're sideways.
You fell over. There.
I'm
Oh,
sideways.
She is sideways.
I'm back.
Well, before we
Okay.
get right into it, I want to let you know, if you're watching this on Twitter, if you're watching it on YouTube or on Facebook, why don't you click the little link associated with that video and toggle your butt on over to Get Vocal. There's a whole chat room full of people, like-minded people. We're going to talk about the case. We're going to talk with Bill and Kristin. You can ask a question. Here's the thing. If you ask that question on Facebook or on Twitter or on YouTube, we ain't going to see it. All right? So toggle your butt on over to Get Vocal.
If only I could hear myself.
What is this voice?
I'm enjoying this
Do not know.
voice of Tim's.
Seriously, don't know what happened with that, but thank you, Jason, for the V coins.
Jason with the
Much
V coins.
And
Good performance.
and Beck Seabass, our friend Rebecca Sebastian, who hosts the Dialogue podcast on the Crawlspace Media Network. It's her birthday today, so big shout out, happy birthday to Beck Seabass.
Big happy birthday to
Yeah.
good old Bex.
I hear it's a big one. 2-5.
Yes.
I think so.
Yeah. 2-5.
Look at
Well-
everyone here tonight. We have Shannon, and that's it. Just Shannon.
Jade is in the chat room. Mike Morford is in the chat room. Cults, Crimes, and Cabernet. Jason
Morph.
Watts.
Morph is here.
Morph, yeah, of course he's here. Bill Thomas is here, and Kristin, he built Morph is here.
And we did you hear the Jaws theme? Because we got the crime shark herself.
Ooh, perfect.
Yeah.
Well, welcome everybody. We are going to be talking about the Colonial Parkway murders and the Lovers Lane murders tonight with Bill Thomas and Kristin Dilley. Of course, Bill and Kristin host Mind Over Murder, that is on the Crawlspace Media Podcast Network, which you can check out. We'll pop a link into the show notes. And they have been covering the Colonial Parkway murders or Lovers Lane murders on their podcast recently because of the recent Oxygen docuseries that you were both a part of. Please tell us
Yes.
a little bit about this.
Yes.
Well, who the hell knows why they renamed the show, which was called the Colonial Parkway Murders, for, I don't know, the last 3 years while we sweated blood developing.
Hold on.
No, we lost Bill. There he is.
Am I back?
Yeah, I think you
You
keep
are
getting
back.
muted. I don't know what happened.
What is
Yeah.
going on?
It's funny. I'm having difficulty hearing myself, but I fortunately I hear you three lovely people loud and clear, and that's all that really matters.
Wow.
Am I still
My
there?
goodness.
Yes.
Yes.
There we go. You're good. No, you're good. Your mouth was moving though, and it was for a minute, so that was interesting.
I was getting into that whole. Oh God.
Kristin sideways again. Oh,
Yeah,
she's back.
she's back.
I'm back.
Well, Mike Morford
All
says
right,
it's a poor choice to change the name of the show, in his opinion.
And as usual, Morph is right. We couldn't believe it either. We thought it was really lame, and it's still lame. And it's funny. People on our social media feed said, "Why are they not calling this the case name that everybody knows, which is the Colonial Parkway
Mhm.
murders?" And we were like, "I don't know what to say."
Did they give you a
Ratings
reason?
grab, maybe. I don't know.
Nope. The only thing I could come up with, and no one from Oxygen ever said this, and don't misunderstand me, the Oxygen people were great. The only thing I can think of is if they wanted to have the latitude, maybe to cover other cases under that umbrella down the road. In other words, other Lover's Lane type cases. I don't know.
Yeah.
No one ever.
I guess. Yeah, that's too bad.
I mean, was it ever called the Lover's Lane murder? Were there ever anybody on any sort of area that was known as Lover's Lane?
Nope.
And the weird thing is, only even though those are some of the places where the murders took place are known as Lover's Lanes. On top of everything else, when you actually start drilling down the case, except for Kathy and Becky, the first couple, my sister Kathy and her girlfriend Rebecca Dowski, the other people aren't actually couples even. So it was just a weird choice. We were kind of scratching our heads. Mike makes a good point. People in any town can relate to creepy lovers' lanes. I do agree with that.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that is a familiar idea. And I think Zodiac, he attacked at least one couple on a lover's lane too. So I think that kind of that's the first thing that came to mind. I think when I heard the name of the show though was Zodiac. Because of that case. Yeah.
And maybe they thought Colonial Parkway had kind of a 1776 sort of connotation.
I get it.
And yeah. Kristin, what do you think? I mean, the Colonial Parkway, I think, is better known in Virginia than it is across the country. Would you agree?
Yeah. Yeah. And, part of me wonders, maybe Colonial Parkway Murders was just too much of a mouthful and Lover's Lane Murders sounded a whole lot better. It's got some, alliteration going on. I don't know. But yes, certainly, the Colonial Parkway, if you don't live here locally or you haven't traveled it at some point, you're probably not aware of it.
I have to say, there's something fishy about that. It's you're talking about Oxygen, NBC. They should have a marketing team that could figure out how to make Colonial Parkway Murders more marketable and more. Bill, you said maybe it had too much of a 1976. I don't know, feeling to it, but like I think they could have made that. I think they could have made that like early 80s feeling, like nostalgia, by using that name and leaning into it instead of going the pulp comic book route of Lover's Lane Murders. I mean, Colonial Parkway Murders, like that's good. That's good. Like that would make me, I don't need to know where that is, right?
No, I think the story would introduce it. It's I don't know. There were decisions that were made that were just, they sort of happen. They're clearly coming out of meetings in Los Angeles, some of which I attended, but others where you're just like, okay, I guess. Jeff Malone says, I honestly thought it was fiction when I saw the name. Other people including people that have been following this case for 30 years, they were really confused because they didn't think the television series Lover's Lane Murders had anything to do with a real case or a real place.
Right.
They could have made this work, but anyway.
Yeah. Well,
you two are now bona fide TV stars, and probably you had to rearrange your schedule to join us tonight. So we do appreciate that.
Well, thank you. We played a similar role to the role that you two fine gentlemen played in the Maura Murray series, also for Oxygen, and also working with Texas Crew Productions. So
that's right.
We were just following your footsteps, and clearly we didn't get the memo. And I were supposed to wear baseball hats tonight.
No.
I got a case of some serious COVID hair going, but in the promotional thing, you guys had your baseball caps on, your Crawlspace Media baseball caps on, which was really cool.
This is true.
Yeah.
I felt great.
So when will we be getting those in the mail? I mean, we will be getting them in the mail, right?
No, never.
It's delayed.
You're breaking up, Kristin.
Yeah.
Figured.
Sorry, couldn't hear you. I thought they were going to blame the post office. Lewis,
We'll
do that
Joyce.
next.
Day.
Oh, yeah.
So
Postal Service delays.
So, Bill, they approached you for your participation in this show, and you said, I'm doing this show, and it's my way or the highway, right?
Yeah,
and
that
they were like,
so, uh-huh.
how did it all come to be?
The way it came about was that Jim Clemente, longtime FBI profiler and writer-producer on Criminal Minds, and now writer-producer on America's Most Wanted and lots of other shows. Jim and I sat down. Kristin teases me about Bill Thomas time, where I say something was a month ago, and she says, "Bill, that was 2 years ago." I think it's 4 years ago now. Jim and I sat down at his house in Los Angeles, and I remember he ordered in this amazing barbecue, and we sat there for hours. As a matter of fact, a number of people came in and joined the conversation, people from XG Productions, his production company, and others. And Jim and I were so enthusiastic about the conversation, we actually wore them all out, and eventually they all went home. And Jim and I were still standing on like the front steps of his house at 1 o'clock in the morning going, yeah, and we got to do this and that. And we got really excited about it. And then it took 3 years, I think, to finally get it off the ground. There were fits and starts, and we actually shot the show twice, top to bottom. Mm-hmm. We shot the show completely, did the series 4 parts, 4 1-hour episodes, and then they took it back to Oxygen, and Oxygen wasn't 100% happy. We went into development hell, which some people think of as turnaround in the movie business, where you're not sure if you're ever going to come out, and we actually weren't sure the show was ever going to air. And then after like a year, they came back and they said, we want to move forward, but we want to reshoot the show. So we went back to Virginia a second time with Texas Crew Productions, a sideways Kristin Dilley. Kristin, you're like a cartoon character almost.
I don't know why it keeps happening. I'm so sorry.
It's very, very interesting. I'm trying not to look at it. Or you.
Yeah. Okay. Well, thank you.
So we went back to Virginia. This is like a year later, and we reshot the show completely from top to bottom, with Texas Crew Productions coming in and joining XG Productions as a co-producer. And the thing that pained me was I was a consulting producer, the same role that Tim and Lance, you guys performed, I think, on Maura Murray. And I had to arrange all the interviews and understand that from a family perspective, you know this well from the work that you do, it's not exactly a joy to appear on these programs and talk about something that's really difficult to talk about. And so I had to go back to all the families and ask them, and quite frankly, beg, plead, cajole, the whole 9 yards, to get them to come back in and reshoot the interviews that they had done the year before. And they hadn't particularly enjoyed the process the first time, and they weren't real psyched about it the second time. But fortunately, everybody said yes. So we went in, and they absolutely refused to use any of the amazing footage that we'd shot the year before. So we reshot every single interview, every single location, the whole thing. And then it went on hold for another year for reasons no one ever quite explained. We couldn't figure out whether it was COVID or something else, but then they announced last fall, okay, we're good to go. First 2 weeks in February, and there we were.
What an odyssey! What an odyssey! And I love how it all started off with barbecue, and I'm just like I'm hung up on this now. What does Bill Thomas? What's his go-to barbecue dish? I'm picturing brisket.
Oh, I like brisket, but I don't know. You know, I've been down to Austin, Texas, and I know we were talking about CrimeCon. I like a good Texas barbecue. I like a sampler plate where you get kind of a lot of different kinds of meat, so you can try them all out and figure out which ones taste the best and which ones stick in your teeth.
Okay.
Hey, Kristin, we haven't decided. Are we going to Austin or what?
Well, I think that's still a little bit up for debate, quite frankly. I don't know. I'm not quite ready to get on a plane yet, but that's just me. I have been fully vaccinated, though. Teacher got it first. So,
well, that's good. Yeah, CrimeCon Austin coming up in June, I think. I would love to go. And I've had nothing but an absolute blast every time we've gone to CrimeCon. But I think we're going to opt for the virtual one this year, unfortunately, in 2021.
Yeah.
With a hard push to go back strong in 2022.
Probably.
Yeah. Well,
yeah, for
I
sure.
understand the hesitation, and you can hear it in Kristin's voice too. We're a little up in the air. I'd love to go. I don't know if we as a country are going to be quite there by June.
Yeah. But we've enjoyed it the 2 years that we've gone.
Yeah, it's an incredible experience when you're part of like the podcast True Crime community, to see your friends that you talk with and you have these Zoom interviews with, and to see them in person is so fun. And if you're not presenting, if you're not doing anything like that, then it's just great to network, and it's great to hang out on Podcast Row and take pictures and network with all of the like executives from other networks and media outlets.
Mm-hmm.
But if you're not presenting this year and you can't really interact with people comfortably, I just don't like it's a really tough decision. But
yeah,
it'd be too, personally, I'd be stressed out the whole time. And just be too stressful.
Yeah, I don't know. It's so much fun hanging out, talking to people, hugging people, talking about crime cases, even hanging out at the bar, getting food with people. And I just feel like this year or for me anyway, I wouldn't feel comfortable doing all those same things. And so that's one of my hesitations there. I'm not vaccinated at all yet. That'll some point soon, but I don't know. It's too bad, but anyway. Sorry.
Oh, sorry. I would like to get Kristin and Bill's opinion on the show, especially. I mean, this had to have been emotional for the two of you, and especially you, Bill, with your sister being the first victim and her girlfriend. And I'm curious how you felt, both of you, how you felt with how they handled that particular subject matter when they got to it. They being the network and the producers.
Kristin, you want to go first?
Well, when I finally watched the show, I felt that they had done a really excellent job conveying all the facts of the case. I felt that they did an excellent job making sure that the family members were heard and that their feelings about the whole entire thing were conveyed. I wanted more from the family members, quite frankly. A lot of stuff that I watched be shot ended up on the cutting room floor, but I'm told that's just part of television. I would say the part that definitely hit me in the gut was the continual graphic usage of the crime scene photos that they kept returning to again and again and again. And no matter, I've been working with this case for 6 years now, you don't get used to hearing and seeing about that kind of violence. It hurts every time. And I can't imagine how awful that was for the family members if it was bad for me.
Yeah, for me, I had seen the earlier edited versions of the show as it was in development. And so I'd weigh in, and mostly I saw my role as a consulting producer. I'm supposed to be the subject matter expert. So most of the time I was focused on keeping the facts straight. And as you both know, it's a really complicated case. 4 double homicides, 8 victims, other potential or potentially related cases that took place in Virginia around the same time. So it's really complicated, and it's easy to get facts and figures, names, and all those sorts of things wrong. And trust me, they did. And so I would be, sending in corrections. But as the show began to develop and we began to see some rough cuts, I was so upset about the complete overuse of the crime scene photos. They just kept throwing. It was like whenever they had a moment, oh, let's throw in a crime scene photo. So they used extremely graphic crime scene photos, which I had seen and I knew about, but I objected behind the scenes over and over and over again. And it was a real problem. And of course, they kept assuring me, oh, Bill, they'll be heavily masked, they'll be blurred. And that just, they weren't very heavily masked. And it's funny, I know that I'm close to it, obviously, and it's difficult for me to be impartial. And I don't think anybody should expect me to be impartial at this point. But lots of viewers, and as a matter of fact, I saw stuff on social media in the last 48 hours where people were talking about they had just seen the show, because they run these shows over and over again, which is fine. These viewers who they're not related to anybody that was killed in the Colonial Parkway murders, they said exactly the same thing. They were like, why did they keep going back over and over and over again to the crime scene photos? And Kathy and Becky's murder is the first of the 4 double homicides. And it's, speaking plainly, those crime scene photos are by far the most graphic, keeping in mind that in one, Keith Call and Cassandra Haley, they disappeared and were never found. So there are no pictures of bodies or anything like that. The pictures from Kathy and Becky's scene, number 1, are by far the most graphic. And so what happened then is you've got 4 episodes, each an hour long. And as the investigators were moving the discussion forward, which I actually thought was very interesting, they would often reference how could incident number 2 be related to incident number 1, and so on. It all makes perfect sense. And they're trying to educate the viewer about this series of murders and how it all took place. So there's a lot of that. Well, here's a parallel in case number 3, the disappearance of Keith Call and Cassandra Haley, that could be similar to the murder of Kathy Thomas and Rebecca Dowski, case number 1. But every freaking time they did that, they went back and showed those horrible graphic crime scene photos of Kathy and Becky. Now, keep in mind, there are no pictures of Keith and Sandy because they disappeared. All we have are nice pictures of Keith at the prom and Becky smiling as she sits on the steps and, looking young and beautiful and happy like all of these 8 young people were. But they've kind of just kept going back to them over and over again. And then in the early editions of the show, they also had this really horrible slasher film music in the score. And they also had these what they call stabs, those musical notes where they go dun dun, that kind of thing. And they were doing that with the crime scene photos. And I went berserk and I said, this is bullshit. This isn't a slasher film. And this is really pushing the bounds of good taste. They backed off on the music, but the photographs are still in there. Somebody ripped the show to shreds media, and they counted, and I'm not going to bother to go back and count myself. They think they cut back to the pictures of Kathy and Becky over 30 times over the course of 4 episodes. And they said, gee, let's go back to the gory pictures of the lesbian couple. Oh, I know. Let's go back to the horrible pictures of the lesbian couple over and over and over again. And I hated that about the show.
Yeah, and Elise here in the chat room says that a lot of the family members were upset about the crime scene photos in the HBO Golden State Killer series, and Morph goes on to say, "Good thing the series wasn't on Netflix or HBO because they would have shown a lot more." So maybe this isn't just an Oxygen specific issue. This is a true crime, subgenre issue. Yeah,
but as Kristin has said,
I think it's completely unnecessary though too. I want to add. I think the viewers are more educated. They don't. I think they're smarter than that. Well, and they don't want to see it either.
I think it's very important to convey what we've lost. So I'd rather see a picture of Robin Edwards and David Knobling, two of the other victims, doing fun young people stuff and smiling and David working on his truck and Robin sitting on the couch with her stuffed animals and just doing like teenager type stuff, young people stuff. Yeah. Why, just because we have them, do we need to keep cutting back over and over and over again to truly grotesque and very lightly masked crime scene photos? I get it. These people were brutally murdered. We've talked that idea to death, and the investigators, they had some discussions that were pretty graphic. And I'm not naive, and I don't have a problem with true crime as a genre, but we forget the fact that these are real life human beings, and this is somebody's kid sister or kid brother. I had to go back to all the Colonial Parkway Murders families and say, for the love of God, do not watch this series. And for instance, with my brothers, both of whom are very supportive, I said to them, please do not watch this series. Basically, the implication was, you'll never forgive me.
Damn. Wow. I mean, what is the purpose of showing a crime scene photo like that? I could see the purpose of it once, to maybe drive home the fact of the brutality, and then show these pictures of the person when they're alive and happy with their significant other, so that you can drive home the tragedy. But I mean, this is like you said, they had music that had jump scares in it before you were like, no, we're not doing shock chords here. What I mean, is it seriously just trying to keep the audience awake? Like Tim and I were talking about this earlier. Like, is it just because they think the audience is just droned out, and then they need something to punch them in the head a little bit?
Maybe a little bit of sense memory. I think that but
I don't know. I mean, I could see showing them once. In other words, I do think the horror of what happened to those 8 young people is important. Any time you want to show, when you're trying to illustrate who these people are, why can't you show them doing, being happy and being alive? And why do you want to juxtapose an interview with a family member who is struggling to keep it together? And of course, I know all the personalities, and Kristin and I were there for almost every single minute of the shoot. And by the way, there's an interesting thing that developed, which I'd like to talk about in a second. Do we really want to cut from the mother or father or sister, brother, barely keeping it together, to showing those crime scene photos again? I mean, do we really want to do that? Let me put that aside for a second. Let me climb off the soapbox. Something interesting that I thought was very interesting that happened during the course of the show was Kristin was there on set with me, as my guest, quite a bit of the time. And then during the course of the shoot, the producers came to me and said, we really like Kristin. do you think she'd be willing to appear on the show? And I said, well, I don't know. That's up to her. But I agree. She knows the case. She'd be great. I can't guarantee she'll say yes. But they did ask, and they said some interesting things. They said, Kristin Dilley is our audience. They said, we have a lot of women, overwhelmingly women. And Kristin, in her work with you, Bill, which is, we figured out is stretched back 6 years, I think.
6, yep.
Her involvement as a writer and an advocate and, a friend to me and to the families, they found that really interesting. And they said, we'd like to feature Kristin Dilley on the show. This wasn't originally part of the plan, but they liked her so much, they actually said, come on, we want you to appear on camera. And she did, and she did a great job. So fess up. Tell what it was like.
Yeah, I had no intention originally of doing it. I have never really myself on TV. I'm still not great with seeing myself on TV, but it was a good experience to do. I was glad to be able to offer my expertise where needed. I will confess that, like, my favorite part of the shoot was definitely just kind of being behind the scenes and watching the actual television production aspect of it. But I also like being able to be there and be a support for, for all of these family members who were, it really cannot be overstated enough what a brave thing it is that they're doing, that they're willing to get up and talk about, like, the worst thing that has ever happened to most of them, and that they were willing to do it not just once, but twice. So any way that I could be a support for them, like, that was the best part of it for me, not seeing myself on camera, not appearing on camera, but being able to be a support for them.
That's really cool. And how were you a support for them? Because you're related to the crimes of Bill and his family. How did you provide support to the others and to Bill's family and to Bill?
Well, I think some of it is just being there. I would sit there. I would, sometimes go through talking points with people. I would often sit with Maureen, who, was absolutely wonderful as one of the lead investigators. I would go over talking points with Maureen. We would just kind of do a lot of chatting, putting people at ease. There was one who was featured in the show who was David Nobling's ex-girlfriend, or she was girlfriend at the time. She was nervous about being on the show. So even just being able to, like, sit and talk with her and just, go over things, I felt like that was the most supportive. And I was glad to be able to kind of be there and help in whatever way I could. Sometimes I think just having somebody there.
Well, and I think a lot of the families know Kristin or know of Kristin. And so they know she's in their corner, that she's been an advocate for our case. And so I think that added to their comfort level. And then it was interesting for, Kristin, I think, to ask to be an interview subject. And as we all know, they interview you for hours and then they use 2 minutes of footage, but
use like 2 minutes. Yeah.
Yeah. It's an interesting experience nonetheless.
Yes. And cover some of the more uncomfortable things so far. What I want to know is, how has things changed? The purpose of the show is so it shakes stuff up in the case, right? I know you've gotten some tips or heard some new things since the show. Yeah. Tell us a little bit about that. Yeah.
We've gotten a lot of new tips and a lot of new information. And Kristin and I have always been amazed. Every time there's been a major article about the case or television story or television series in this example, people come out of the woodwork. It's amazing. Sometimes we're even now finding it. Our case is over 30 years old. We're actually finding, we were discussing this today while we recorded 2 episodes of Mind Over Murder this afternoon. We're actually finding a younger generation who are the kids and nieces and nephews of potential suspects. And in examples I'm thinking of, where people are coming forward because they suspect that their uncle and other people like that who are, obviously fully 25, 30 years older, in some cases more. And these young people are coming forward as a result of the television show and all the publicity. And so now we're researching those tips and then sending them into the FBI. And boy, have we gotten into some really interesting and sometimes heated conversations with the FBI. A couple of times I've been writing back to our FBI agents, and I'll send a draft to Kristin. She's like, "You got to take that first paragraph out."
you gotta walk that back off that cliff there, buddy.
We made you feel better to say that. Now delete that first paragraph and go with paragraph 2 as your lead. The FBI clearly doesn't like the show, and we don't care. They are not terribly comfortable with how much outreach we're doing with tipsters and people that have information that they want to get into law enforcement, and we don't care. They actually tried to step on our toes a couple of weeks ago and tell us that they didn't want us to do this, and back to them taking out the stuff that Kristin told me to take out. And I told them, look, we're at 34 years here. We're not going to stop. I hope we're clear on that. And we're finding people's situations change. In other words, people get older, they get divorced, they break up. In some cases, suspects have died or they're estranged now. All these changing family circumstances are allowing people to step forward and speak up. And so our FBI agents told us they're getting calls at FBI headquarters as a result of the TV show. And then we really put ourselves out there in terms of accepting tips from the citizens. And we're, feeding those into the FBI. And there's been some headbutting behind the scenes with our investigators, but one thing, I talked to the senior agent today, and I was talking to Kristin about it later, and I said, I don't think they're used to being talked to this way, because we're at 34 years here. You're not going to tell me what to do, and what are you guys going to do? Come and arrest me because I'm interested in finding out who killed my kid sister? I mean, how do I say this in a non-profane way? We're not going to be pushed around at this point. And I don't misunderstand me. I respect law enforcement. I respect the FBI and the Virginia State Police, but we haven't exactly pushed this one over the finish line. So we're going to keep asking questions and talking to people.
I think that's totally fine. And they have to understand that. I'm sure it's frustrating for them, but that's only probably because they don't want you to make more work for them. Ultimately they do have the same goal. Just certainly a little bit of a different method, I guess. Any more specifics on those tips or anything?
Well, we're not going to get too specific, but it's funny.
Probably not. No.
Some information has come through that's actionable. I mean, it's very interesting. The other families are very involved, and which is great. And for example, we share information and tips and so on. But I was very flattered. One of the senior agents, in writing back to one of the other families, was talking about a tip, and that the write-up that they received had more than enough information for them to move forward. And I said to Kristin afterwards, when I saw the email, I said, "Oh my gosh, that's one of our tips." It felt good that they were acknowledging to another family that we're providing, well-researched information, such that, for instance, they went and questioned a guy a week ago Sunday based on information that we had just sent in. And look, I'm not saying the guy's guilty of anything, but I'm just saying, this we think this is worth checking out. Obviously, we're not investigators. We're not detectives. We're not pretending that we're going to solve this case, but we are going to keep pushing forward with information as we receive it so that they can evaluate, what they're hearing. They obviously know a ton of stuff about the case that we don't know.
It's super reassuring to know that these are coming in, like you said, are actionable items. What's your? I have two questions in my head. One is sort of a goofy question, so I'm not going to ask that one. I'll ask the other one. Okay. My first question is: so Kristin edits your emails to the FBI. Can we just get like a little sample of something that you're like, you should probably walk that back, Bill?
Yeah. I don't know, the one that said, "You motherfuckers are completely incompetent." She said, "I think you have to take out motherfuckers. Completely incompetent's okay. Motherfuckers."
Yeah.
She said, "MFers would sound so much better."
Bill is a stubborn Irishman, so I'm not revealing secrets here. Bill is a stubborn an Irishman's temper as well. And I get where he's coming from too. I have a pretty awful temper as well, but I can, I want to make sure that the stubborn Irishman doesn't say something that's going to piss the FBI off so entirely that they cut ties with him. And so I just try to keep that in mind as like, okay, how can I make sure that Bill is getting the point across, but not so much that the FBI is going to put him on their short list. I really do dread the day that I check my email when I leave work and read from Bill, hey, got pulled in by the FBI for questioning, also possibly just got arrested. Like I'm worried that that's going to happen one of these days because he pisses off the wrong person.
Oh, come on. They, do audit my taxes.
Yeah, that's the FBI is going to audit your taxes.
That'd be
the FBI is going to audit your taxes. Yeah,
yeah, exactly. A few calls to make for them.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
like they've
yeah. You just hold them accountable, Bill, and Kristin, and
an Irish Catholic boy from Boston with a few things to say.
And you were joking about the motherfucker thing.
That's just an icebreaker.
Are you sure?
So back to the unsolved case. There's some talk about and some theories that are floating out there about this being more than one person. And I understand the romantic storytelling angle, which is single, usually single guy who is stalking the streets at night. What's your thoughts on that? Is this something that might be the work of several people?
Well, you want to go first?
From the standpoint of let me try that again. I'm so sorry. I'm tired. It was somebody who's local. I don't exactly relish the idea that there are as many as 4 different murderers who have gotten away with 4 double homicides over a 3-year period. I don't like that. That doesn't make me sleep well at night. So it is scary to think about the idea that there may be more than one person walking around out there who has never been held accountable for murders. But I also think that the longer Bill and I have looked into this case, the more it seems that it just doesn't seem likely that all of the cases are connected. So as much as I like the idea, and Lance, you brought up the idea that it's very much like a romantic storytelling notion. It's an episode of Criminal Minds right there. You've got the moral enforcer who's stalking the. I don't necessarily think that that's what it is in this case.
Well, interestingly, on the show, the Lover's Lane murders, that's the one about the Colonial Parkway murders. the two lead investigators actually end up debating that issue. Maureen O'Connell is a retired FBI agent, and Lonnie Coombs is a retired federal prosecutor, and they're both great. And Jim Clemente does his profiling thing, which there's so much more work that they all did that should have been in the show.
Yeah.
But, you know, you run out of real estate, even with 4 one-hour shows. Lonnie and Maureen ended up actually coming down with 2 differing opinions at the end of the show in terms of even whether or not the 4 double homicides and the Colonial Parkway murders are related or not. So Maureen thinks they are. Lonnie thinks they're not. Now, over the years, my personal pendulum has swung back and forth as I've learned more.
Yep.
I'm now in the same spot I think that Kristin is, which is I'm way less than convinced that 4 incidents are all related. I think when we solve the Colonial Parkway murders, I think that 1 or more of these murders are going to fall off the table and be unrelated. And I think it's possible that some individual murderers, there's a guy named Brian Pettinger and another woman named Lorianne Powell, both Liberty Security Company in that area. I think it's possible that they may be related to some of the Colonial Parkway murders. And so I think this is going to be like a Venn diagram with different relationships. I don't think it's a straightforward 1, 2, 3, 4 linear series of serial murders. And I personally think it's still quite likely that these murders are committed by one person. And sometimes when I've had the privilege of going out with investigators, our current FBI investigators, as well as the retired folks that worked with us on the series, they've explained to me pretty convincingly how one person can control 2 healthy young people. Jim Clemente does a great job in the TV series, and I'm really glad they kept this in. He demonstrates to other investigators how one well-trained person with kind of a blitz attack and a weapon can control 2 healthy young people, and how most people will follow instructions, particularly if they believe that they're being approached by a law enforcement figure, or they use the term authority figure quite a bit.
Interesting. Okay. And yeah, I'm personally I'm pretty torn. I wonder about 2 killers or perpetrators, I guess, at one scene at the same time. What about the idea of that?
You mean a partnership?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's certainly possible. When years ago, 1990, after the 4 double homicides had taken place, the Virginia State Police and the FBI held a press conference, and they laid out what they thought at that time, this is 30 years ago now, the scenario for a leader and follower, and how they thought there were 2 individuals. And I don't know where they came up with this, and they may have been trying to just draw some people out. They were telling the follower that they thought he was in danger and that the leader was going to kill him. I don't know. I'm not saying it disrespectfully. I'm not sure exactly how they came up with that theory in 1990, but that was at least publicly what they were thinking.
It's pretty interesting. I would say to draw him out. That's my immediate instinct, because it didn't seem to work. And you know, they I don't know what would have happened at that point that would have given them the idea that there was more than one killer at a crime scene. You know, it just seems like something to throw at the wall at that point. But I don't know.
Yeah. A lot of the suspects that have been mentioned over the years have a law enforcement background or a military background or both. So military training, law enforcement training, maybe being a law enforcement officer, which, by the way, I noticed in the comments, people are asking about park rangers, that 2 of the cases actually took place, they believe, on the Colonial Parkway, which is patrolled by National Park Service rangers who are back in the 80s in standard issue cop cars. They were in uniforms, but they still look like cops. And, they carry a gun and the whole 9 yards. That's a possibility, as are kind of almost every other law enforcement agency in the area. And remember, there's a tremendous amount of military down there in that part of Virginia, tens of thousands of personnel.
Oh, yeah.
And all these different agencies all have their own security or police forces. And even the CIA has a major training facility right there on the Colonial Parkway, just a few miles from where Kathy and Becky and Keith Call's cars were found separately. It's called Camp Perry. And they are, they have their own security agencies. I mean, some of the crazy theories that are out there are that it's people being trained at Camp Perry by the CIA who may or may not be CIA agents. Remember, in the 80s, we also trained other people's secret police at camp back to South America or wherever the heck they were from, whatever dictatorship time. And so they would leave the base at night to go out and practice on civilians. I mean, you can probably hear me rolling my eyes over the vocal here, but
I can see you're doing it.
Used to the podcast. Morph's asking about police impersonators. They have really seriously looked at a lot of police impersonators. As a matter of fact, about a year and a half ago or so. I hope that's not Bill Thomas time. I really do think it's a year and a half ago.
No, it's not. It's a year and a half, yeah.
Okay. There was a police impersonator who was arrested in Baltimore who is from the Colonial Parkway area. And I had to follow up with the Baltimore County Sheriff's Department and then the Maryland State Police, the Virginia State Police. And it's amazing. I can't believe the brother of the murder victim has to do this stuff. I was calling these people. They had no idea what I was talking about. And I said, this guy that you just arrested lived past tense, in the area of the Colonial Parkway. And I mean, like a mile off the Colonial Parkway in several different places. Newport News. He's in his 50s. He's old enough. He's a police impersonator. You guys arrested him for pulling over a car on 695 outside of Baltimore. You need to check this guy out to see whether or not he could be involved in this series of double homicides in his old stomping ground. Excuse me. But it's funny. I'm talking to people that literally have no idea what I'm talking about. I'm saying, well, there's this case called Colonial Parkway murders. And I'm like, why am I schooling the cops on cases in their area? That kind of thing happens a lot.
Is there anything in your head or Kristin? We haven't even talked about like the dates that these happen, right? So we have October, that was your sister, and right, that was October 12th, and the next one is September 20th. I mean, they're October and September, except for Cassandra Haley and Richard Call. I think that was April, so that was early spring, but they were never found. Does that suggest to you, and this is over a 3-year period, so over a 3-year period, you have the same time frame, which is mid-fall, except for one where the victims weren't found. what does that tell you? Does that tell you that somebody is coming into town and then leaving and coming back into town and leaving for some reason?
Well, it's actually a very tight circle. It's the same 6-week time frame from Labor Day weekend to Columbus weekend. 3 of the cases are in that same 6-week back to school time frame. Breaks pattern is the missing couple, like you said, Keith Call and Cassandra Haley. They went missing in April. I don't know. I mean, the FBI has theories. One of their theories is that that this guy is getting off on the first murder of Kathy and Becky, and then he's going out to recreate the high. Approximately once a year, is engaging in hunting behaviors and going out and hunting couples. Now, I mean, there is obviously a significant difference. Kathy and Becky are a lesbian couple. The other 3 couples are straight couples. But maybe that doesn't matter to him. Or maybe he's just going out and looking for couples in cars and coming up on them and, challenging them in some way. There are dozens and dozens of other examples of couples in the area, Colonial Parkway, that were stopped by someone. They can't tell you years later exactly who it was. Sometimes the cars are marked. Sometimes they have lights in the dashboard or up in the grill. Sometimes they don't. And so one of their theories is it's possible that he may go out and interact with couples or people that he stopped, and then he makes a decision about whether based on the interaction somehow, like he's in a good mood or someone's disrespectful or whatever it is, or maybe he's evaluating how many people are in this car. Is it 1? Is it 2? Is it 4? And then making decisions based on the scenario, whether or not it meets his needs. So there are dozens of examples of people being pulled over or stopped while they're on the Colonial Parkway and surrounding roads. And years later, people can't tell you for sure who it was that stopped them. They just know an authority figure stopped them, interacted with them, and they lived to tell the tale.
That is something fascinating. It makes me wonder whether the victims had an interaction with this person, and then that person followed them to the next spot, or some if this individual decided that this was going to be his intended victim for the night. But what does that tell you about just that break-in pattern, with one being in April? Or the 2 being in April, Richard Keith Call and Cassandra Haley. Does that tell you that this person got anxious, or maybe it's another person, or maybe they just left?
Or there's a lot of cycling. In other words, it could be something like they are in the military and they are shipping out. For instance, the naval base at Norfolk, Virginia, which is right nearby, is the biggest in the country. So there are dozens of ships that sail out of Norfolk, Virginia each week. And then there are also all these military people being moved around for different kinds of tours and training and so on. So maybe he is returning to that area. People have also said it could be a William and Mary student and be in college and killing a new couple to celebrate their return to the Williamsburg area. I don't,
no.
Let's kill somebody. I'm being.
Yeah. Oh, Bill.
This is very
okay. We won't put that out there.
It really has the ring of a maybe former law enforcement, park ranger, military, ex-military, somewhere in that range, I think is the answer here. And my personal opinion, I don't think that they're all related. I think that I think there might be one that's something else going on. But I'm really fascinated, Bill, when you say that you think that there might be one or more that kind of fall off of this, and then there's one or maybe a couple others that get added on to that killer. That's really piques my interest there.
Yeah, it's pretty disturbing to have all these murders go unsolved for this long. And Kristin was saying she grew up in an era where even as a teenager, tell them a little bit about what you received about driving on the Parkway.
Yeah, I mean, I was learning to drive, 97, maybe 98. And, I mean, this was a full 10 years, after all of this had taken place. But, we were still told in no uncertain terms, do not drive on the Parkway at night. If you are driving on the Parkway at night and you are pulled over, leave the Parkway, go to a lighted rest area. Do not stop, on the Parkway. Don't do it. And that was just that was a hard and fast rule. It was for me. It was for all of my friends. We were told, you do not drive on the Parkway at night. You don't go there to hang out. You don't go there to do anything for any reason. So it didn't even take 10 years for it to sort of become almost, I hate to use the term urban legend, but it does feel that way to a certain extent. For my generation of people, it was, don't drive on the Parkway, horrible things could happen.
Almost like an urban legend.
Almost like the Lovers Lane murders.
Yeah. Almost like the Lovers Lane murders.
I'm surprised they didn't just superimpose a hook in the back of a car.
Oh, don't even get me started. By the way, someone just asked a question here in the sidebar. They're all during the school year when you think about it. Everything is in that August, September to April timeframe. So everything is during the school year.
Yep.
So
there's nothing in the summer.
You don't think?
Yep.
You don't think I
it's also during the baseball season.
Yeah, this is true. Just saying. Wait a minute? Do they have a minor league team?
Was it Daryl Strawberry?
Yeah. Kristin, do you know if you have a minor league team in the area?
We have a minor league team in Richmond called the Flying Squirrels.
I'm digging it. Hey, I got a title here. Everybody has to sign the NDA. The Minor League Murders.
The flying, the Flying Squirrel Slasher.
You're lucky Morph already left.
Yeah, he would have gotten that podcast feed launched.
Oh, it's already launched.
Yeah, Morph would have grabbed that.
It's a good thing Morph didn't hear it. You're right. He would have already signed up for it.
Well, before we wrap, I'm curious if you think that this person is still out there.
I do. As a matter of fact,
I think
the
so.
FBI.
Good.
And
They've told me repeatedly.
Yeah.
They've told me repeatedly. He knows who you are. He follows you on social media. And I said, have I put myself or my family in danger? And then there's this really long pause. No, we don't think so, they said.
Mm.
And I thought, gee, that makes me feel so much better.
The FBI said we don't think so.
We don't think. Long pause.
Not sure.
Light sigh. No, we don't think so.
Well, it's got to be a little bit more, than if he didn't know about you.
Yeah. We check our friends list. We watch who signs up.
Yeah, that's a pretty eerie kind of creepy feeling. How does that make you feel, Bill?
Oh, I don't care. As they pointed out,
Good.
he came after me. He talk about outing yourself. You're gonna go after the brother of the murder victim. Why not just say, I'm the guy we're looking for? I can't worry about that.
Good. And you've got an attack dog and multiple alarm systems. Bow and arrows. Yeah.
Bow and arrows.
Yeah, crossbow. Who was
Ferocious Oliver.
Kristin, who was telling us about crossbows?
Esther said you have 15 Rottweilers.
Oh,
Petler was talking about crossbows.
it was Laura Petler was talking about crossbows.
Petler.
Yeah.
Laura Petler, who is on our show and is absolutely wonderful, noted criminologist and one of our favorite people. She was on with us, Mind Over Murder, a couple of weeks ago, and we're talking to her about home security or some craziness, and she talked about coming to the door with a crossbow. And I really like the idea. Oh, ask Dr. Laura about the crossbow when she's on.
We will.
We did talk about it. Yeah.
She's an avid fox hunter and an avid bow hunter, and she was talking about how she would ride her horse and shoot at moving objects with her bow and arrow. And it took Tim and I so long to sort of wrap our heads around, like, people do that in real life and not just movies.
No, for real.
It's not just hunting. Yeah.
Guys,
one thing with Dr. Laura is I root for the fox. That's all.
Yeah. I want the fox to get away. Like, I'm sure she's a great shot, but I would like the fox to get away. Foxes are great animals.
Yeah.
But here's something.
Besides, I'm afraid. What is it?
I think every handful of episodes that you and Kristin do, maybe every 5th or 6th or 7th episode, just title the episode, "We Solved It. We found the guy." And then just see the pattern. see the pattern of who keeps tuning in and just doesn't seem to get it. And then you can maybe triangulate who the person is.
yes.
Get the IP address.
I like it.
Yeah.
Nice little rating grab.
Thousands of other people are going to be like, "You guys are such jerks."
Well,
I didn't solve.
I mean, you could really work it into the script. It could be anybody. It could be anybody. You could title it like "Solved." But just see the pattern of who would consistently be like tuning in, maybe dropping off at a certain, because there's statistics you could look at, like where people drop off their listening for an episode, and contact the FBI.
Well, Bill,
It's
I do want to know, Bill. I know in the intro to Mind Over Murder, you mentioned your book and then you're writing the book. We talked a little bit off air about this, but I want to know about this on air. Tell us, where is this book? When can we expect it?
Tim already pre-ordered.
It's a manuscript. It's not a book yet. So besides, when I tried to hawk the book around to publishers a while back, they actually said this book would be better if it had a happy ending. Yeah, Kristin loved it.
No kidding.
Yeah.
Oh God!
If we think television people are cynical, and they are, and we think true crime people can be, as they can be, book publishing people are just as cynical. They said, "Bill, this book would be much better if it had a happy ending." And I remember thinking to myself, "And welcome to my life."
Yep.
But no, there is a manuscript. It's only 900 pages, and there's more being written every week. So, I think it's going to end up like the Magna Carta, or it'll be like the Encyclopedia Britannica when we were kids. This, Kristin, for your benefit, an encyclopedia was a thing that you.
Okay. You know what?
They came in gold bound. It's like,
I had a whole set of those.
oh, good. Okay.
Yep.
I know you tell your
I had a whole set of those.
students that They can't look things up on the internet.
I had the Time Life books.
There's a book.
Yeah,
there's a book, and it'll come out someday. But apparently, we have to come up with a happy ending first.
Well, here, just have your whole book be about your personal journey, and then your happy ending could be that you finally secured that HelloFresh ad on your podcast.
Yeah.
Yep.
You finally got a HelloFresh.
Perfect.
Ad. And I mean, you could just say like this, how we were happy. That's happy, right? But you have a 900-page manuscript. Why do I picture you like on a hill in the middle of, a wintry storm, like writing by a candlelight with like a quill pen? Is that how the book was written?
No, actually, it was written. A lot of it was me firing up my computer and talking into the computer, into my word processing software. Dragon.
And was the first sentence there shall be light?
No, I went with the my favorite, I am born.
Yes.
Kristin's one of the few civilians not in the publishing world who's read it.
Really?
And I'm not sure she ever got past, page 800. I think she just wore herself out.
Really? And what you read this manuscript?
Yeah, portions of it.
Exactly.
Oh my God. It's good. It's good. You got to keep in mind though.
She knows the story.
You got to keep in mind though that I know this. I know it backward and forward at this point. Like every aspect of that manuscript I know because I've heard it straight from the horse's mouth. At this
Also,
point.
I heard her failing. I misspelled Dilley in one of the earlier drafts, and she was very upset.
Yes, you did.
There's a typo, and then autocorrect picks it up and just carries it away.
It's the computer's fault. I'm talking and putting the words down, and it just wrote Dilley. What can I say? By the way, when it comes to podcast ads, one of our life's goals is we want to do a Third Love bra ad, and without sniggering.
It's one of his life goals. Let's be clear on that. It's not mine. It's his.
What can I say? I think it's something that you should, try to achieve.
Feel free to workshop it here.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I was saying to Tim the other day that I had never heard of a number of products and services until I heard you two doing live reads on your podcasts.
Well, please tell those products and services to circle back around with us and let them know this because they've since left.
I know. The real, you would do these commercials for the real that I just thought so compelling.
The real.
The real.
Well, thank you. That's funny to hear. I mean, we have fun doing those. I will say we sometimes go way off the rails in recording those.
Not sure why Madison Reed doesn't come back around to us. We had a whole backstory. We had. I mean, it was a saga.
And some of those commercials were like 2.5 minutes long, and we didn't care because they were so freaking funny.
I know they were only paying for like 30 seconds, 45 seconds, and we're giving them like 2 minutes of gold.
Yeah, I mean, just comedic gold, and I just thought they were amazing.
Thank you.
Thanks. Yeah, we couldn't do them any other way. We realized that the first time we tried to do one, it came off like a joke, and we just were like, okay, I guess this is how we do ads now. We're just goofy about it, or not now, just how we do ads.
Yeah. One of these days I'm going to do. Go ahead. No, it's all you. Floor is yours.
It's your show.
One of these days I want to do a real ad for HelloFresh. Love
Yeah.
Hello. No. I'm sorry. Blue Apron. Blue Apron. I want to do an honest Blue Apron ad, which is how it takes you like 2.5 hours to cook, and you use every single dish in your kitchen, and you eat it in like 4.5 minutes because you're starving, because it's taken you 2.5 hours to cook it. And then you just look around at your kitchen. It's a complete mess. You're like, okay. Not to mention, like, we had to take a picture of it and like post it on social media. Like, my hands are shaking because I'm like starving. But if they want to come back, we'll take Blue Apron again. Love them.
Yeah.
Maybe if we do this, Blue Apron takes 2 hours to cook, then HelloFresh will be like, oh, hey, these guys, they're looking for they're in our market right now. They're in our wheelhouse.
Morph only uses Red Apron.
Ms. Gags points out that we should just let Kristin do the Third Love ads.
Yes,
leave it
mostly. Yeah. Probably.
All right. Okay.
Safe. Very safe. Yeah. Safer move. Well,
I've
Bill
heard,
Thomas. Kristin Dilley. Yeah, go ahead.
I just want to say I have heard Nick and the Cat Third Love ads, kind of from an appreciation point of view, if you will. And I don't remember if those guys are married or not, but they talked about the women in their lives and how great they look, and I thought they did a great job. And I think it's possible. Kristin signed off.
Where did Kristin go?
She said, "That's it. I'm out of here." I think it's possible to do a bra ad without, sounding like a complete perv. That's my.
I think it's tough. It's tough, but
it's tough. Yeah,
it's tough.
Yeah, but it was fun.
Ginger says she's done with the bra talk. Yeah. I guess so.
Kristin bailed. She said, enough of this. Well, thank you so much, Kristin Dilley, and thank you so much, Bill Thomas, for joining us here tonight on our Crawlspace Live Get Vocal. This has been a great conversation. Of course, we want everyone to check out the Lover's Lane Murders television show that is available on Oxygen Network. I'm going to pop a link in the show notes right here. Check it out. Bill Thomas and Kristin Dilley are on that show. And you know what? Why don't you check out Mind Over Murder, too? Because Bill and Kristin are breaking down the show, and they're talking all about the Colonial Parkway case. Toggle your butt on over to and subscribe to Mind Over Murder.
Thank you. Loving the music. Loving the tunes.
You struck me as a Pixies fan.
Love the Pixies.
Yeah,
Love
Bill's a big music guy.
Yeah, where is my mind? Oh, come on.
That was good. Oh, and I wanted to mention that there's a new Netflix documentary called This Is a Robbery that's coming out very soon, I think in a couple of weeks. Bill, it is about the Gardner heist. We may have to reconvene and talk about this. Yeah, hopefully it's pretty good.
Hey, and one last thing, the new Ben Affleck movie directed by George Clooney, they were shooting in front of my parents' house in Lowell, Massachusetts this week.
Really? Oh my goodness.
Right.
See?
My mom would have gone out there and grabbed up Clooney and given him a kiss and gotten an autograph, and who knows?
Now, Clooney does a very good Third Love ad read. I don't know if you've heard it, but it's phenomenal.
I have not. There's something to emulate.
Yeah.
Well, thanks for the Pixies. We love them. This monkey's gone to heaven.
Well, thank you, Bill Thomas, and thank you everyone for hanging out with us tonight on this live Get Vocal with Bill and Kristin of Mind Over Murder and the Lover's Lane Murders. Thank you very much. We'll be back next week here on our Get Vocal Thursday night show.
Everyone have a great week. It's been fun.